Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Mr. Pad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Boy. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 16th day of December 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're in chapter 14, the three modes of material nature. Text 10. Text 10.
9.
Is it 9?
Yeah.
Okay, text 9. On page 574. Sattvam Sukhe Sanjayati Rajaha Karmani Bharata Jnanam Avritya Tutamaha Pramade Sanjayati Uta Sattvam Sukhe Sanjayati Rajakarmani Bharata Jnanamavritya Tutamah Pramade Sanjayatyuta Sattvam Sukhe Sanjayati Rajakarmani Bharata Jnanamavritya Tutamah Pramade Sanjayatyuta Sattvam Sukhe Sanjayati Rajakarmani Bharata Jnanamavritya Tutamah Pramade Sanjayatyuta. Nelson. Sattvam Sukhe Sanjayati Rajakarmani Bharata Jnanamavritya Tutama Pramade Sanjayatyude. 30. Sattvam Sukhe Sanjayati Rajakarmani Bharata Jnanamavritya Tutama Pramade Sanjayatyuta. Sattvam Sukhe Sanjayati Rajakarmani Bharata Jnanamavritya Tutama Pramade Sanjayatyuta. Can you chant? Sattvam Sukhe Sanjayati Rajakarmani Bharata Jnanamavritya Tutama Pramade Sanjayatyuta. Bhakta Chad.
Sattvam Sukhe Sanjayati
Sattvam Sukhe Sanjayati
Rajakarmani Bharata
Rajakarmani Bharata
Jnanamavritya Tutama
Jnanamavritya Tutama
Pramade Sanjayatyuta.
Pramade Sanjayatyuta. Anyone else on? Dr. Chad?
Vanessa's on.
Vanessa?
Haribol.
Haribol, you want to try it?
Sattvam Sukhe Sanjayati
Sattvam Sukhe Sanjayati
Rajakarmani Bharata
Rajakarmani Bharata
Jnanamavritya Tutama
Jnanamavritya Tutama
Pramade Sanjayatyuta.
Pramade Sanjayatyuta. Okay, word by word. Sattvam, the mode of goodness. Sukhe, in happiness. Sanjayati, binds. Rajaha, the mode of passion. Karmani, in fruit of activity. Bharata, O son of Bharat. Jnanam, knowledge. Avritya, covering. Tu, but. Tamaha, the mode of ignorance. Pramade, in madness. Sanjayati, binds. Uta, it is said. Translation, Krishna says to Arjuna, O son of Bharat, means descendant of Bharat, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion conditions one to fruit of action, and ignorance, covering one's knowledge, binds one to madness. Purport. A person in the mode of goodness is satisfied by his work or intellectual pursuit, just as a philosopher, scientist, or educator may be engaged in a particular field of knowledge and may be satisfied in that way. A man in the mode of passion may be engaged in fruit of activity. He owns as much as he can and spends for good causes. Sometimes he tries to open hospitals, give to charity institutions, etc. These are signs of one in the mode of passion. And the mode of ignorance covers knowledge. In the mode of ignorance, whatever one does is good neither for him nor for anyone else. Om Jnanatimmirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So that very prayer is very pertinent for this verse. Om Jnanatimmirandasya. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. But my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada, through the torchlight of knowledge, which is Bhagavad Gita and all his other books, his lectures, this whole institution, is meant for enlightening those who are open to being enlightened, who are curious. Remember the first sutra of the Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta means the ultimate knowledge, the end of all knowledge. And the Vedanta Sutra begins with a call to the human beings. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. It's not difficult to memorize that one. Ata means now, therefore, Brahma Jigyasa. One should inquire, or gyasa, into Brahman, the absolute truth. What is that absolute truth? Sutra number 2. Janma Yasya Yataha, which, if you recall, is the very first words of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It goes on. Janma Yasya Yaton Vayadi Tadatashtati. So the Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, and Lord Chaitanya accepted it as such. That's why he didn't write another one, nor any of his followers did, until Baladev Vidyabhushan. There's a whole story behind that, which I won't get into right now. But it's not. It's an important commentary, but it's not absolutely necessary because the Bhagavatam really fully explains the inner meaning of the Vedanta Sutra. So the whole point of that first sutra, which is a call to human beings, now meaning now that you're a human being, don't act like an animal. You know, animals are also curious. Every living entity is inquisitive. Prabhupada points out in one purport or lecture, I forget which, how even the little birds. I remember where I grew up, we had a lot of robins in Long Island at that time, and they would come out in the spring and they would be dancing around on the lawn, and they'd be looking for a worm. I don't know if they can hear them, or, you know, and boom, you know, they'd come down there, pull out the worm, and that's it. So they're very curious. Where's that worm? Where's the worm? You see, not where's the absolute truth. So if we act like the animals, and there's that nice verse in the Hitopadesh. What's the difference between the human being and the animals? Well, first it says, well, here's what's the same. Ahara nidra bayamaita nangcha samanyamaita pashapiya narana. Ahara means eating. You know, the robins eat the worms, the dogs eat something else. So everyone's eating. So we eat, they eat. Nidra, we sleep. Eating and sleeping, obviously. Fearing. Every time I take my walk, I learn so much on the walk. You know, sometimes there's a bunch of birds. There's crows. Sometimes the seagulls have landed, because this is the way it is in I don't know if it's every city like this, but we have these trash cans everywhere, you know. But the trash cans are places where you can find little cans, and you can cash those in for a nickel a piece or something. So you find the homeless people, they're taking apart, they're pouring the trash in there. So I'm taking my walk, I got to dodge, you know, that stuff. But the birds, so, you know, there can be some food in there. So you see the crows are dancing, you know, and sometimes the seagulls come in. So they're looking for food. This is part of the way they find food. So eating, sleeping, certainly, mating, and defending, or fearing. Defending means you're afraid of something, you defend. So they call bhaya. Arhara, nidra, sleeping, bhaya, fearing. Maitunancha, that's the sex. So we share that. Samanyameta pashabi naranam. Pashabi is animals, naranam is human beings. We have the same, we have different varieties, but it's the same basic thing. What's different? What makes us human beings then? Dharmo hitesham adhiko vishesho. Dharma, religion, regulation, you see. Now, what is that dharma for? There's a certain progression in the Vedic culture, right? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, where there's these 4 different elements in human endeavor. So Dharma means religion. But that religion can also be materialistically motivated. Just like there's part of the Vedas, the Indian wisdom knowledge, in the four Vedas, the Rig, Sama, Tarva, and Yajur, and the Mahabharata, the histories, Mahabharata and Ramayana is the basic two, the Puranas, the thing. So part of that letter is called Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda, part of the Vedas. I forget which Veda deals with that. But they'll give you, different sacrifices to perform in order to propitiate Indra, so that you can, get enough credits to go to heaven and enjoy for thousands and millions of years. It's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Trividyamam soma papa papa yagyairiswa svargatim pratiyante te punyamasara sudendra lokam ashnanti divyan deva bhogan. That's in the 9th chapter. So what is he saying there? Some worship me indirectly by following these portions of the Vedas that help you get to heaven. Trividya, these are the three sections of the Vedas. Trividya mam, soma pa, they drink the soma juice, all desiring to go to heaven. Soma pa, puta papa, become purified in a certain way. Yajna, perform sacrifice. Ishtva, for the means of svargatim, the goal of svargaloka, which is heaven, the different heavens and Indralokas of it. Te punyam, and becoming purified. Te punyam asara sudendra lokam, Sudha Indra lokam, this is the planet of Indra. Ashnanti divyan divideva bhogan, for the purpose of enjoying divine delights, godly delights for a long, long time. Now, not everybody can get there. You have to perform it just right, but some do. And say, te tam bhuktva svarga lokam vishalam. And those who actually get up there, they enjoy these godly delights for a long time. Vishalam means vast, beautiful weather. Did you see the weather forecast? Around Christmas time, it's supposed to pour. We've got a huge, right here in Southern California. Yeah, one of these atmospheric rivers are coming by. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So that's Krishna. Okay, so you get to heaven, and then what happens? The first line says, yes, and you enjoy for a long time these wonderful delights. Tetam bhuktva, svargalokam vishalam. But then, chine punye. It's just like a credit card. I compare it. Suppose you're working hard, your wife is working hard, you both got, saving money to go on your dream vacation. You're working here in California, you want to go to Hawaii, right? So finally, you have enough money saved, it's in the bank, you go get your credit cards, and off you go to Hawaii. You got it all planned out. I've never been, Malibu Beach, whatever, you got it. And you go, and you credit card, very good, all set. But at a certain point, credit card gets spit out. Oh, Mr. Smith, you have another card? This one's, okay. Oh, no, now we got to go back to work, back to California or Nevada or somewhere, anyway. So Krishna says like that. Chine punya, exactly that. Your punya, it's like a credit, Punya is a good karma. So it's a credit, but it becomes chine, it becomes skinny, and is ultimately gone. Martya lokam vishanti. He doesn't mince words. Krishna doesn't mince words in the Bhagavad Gita. Every word counts. Time is of the essence. This battle's about to begin. So chine punye martya lokam vishanti. You come back again to this world of death, martya loka. That's the thing about this, birth, death, old age. So therefore he says, evam tahi dharmam, by following these three Vedas that deal with karma kanda. Anupama gatagatam, you're just going and coming. You may go to heaven, but you come back right here and you didn't make any progress toward going to the spiritual world. So that doesn't help you. And that's very prominent in the mode of passion. The mode of passion, you have some knowledge, and you may have to get up to the mode of goodness, but it's not good enough. Goodness will, as explained here, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, certain kind of happiness, pure, you're not a sinful person, you like walking in the woods and philosophical exchange and so many different things. But you're not serving Krishna. It's a certain kind of mode of goodness happiness, but it's still in the modes. So what Krishna is saying, and then, okay, then if you're just in the mode of passion, food of action, that may keep you bound here, and the mode of ignorance, madness. This is the danger. Mode of ignorance, think laziness, think very unclean, drugs, you know. I was just thinking, it's so tragic. I mean, I grew up in the 60s, and there was this whole thing with LSD and all, you know, and trying to find God in this way, you know. And Prabhupada had to confront that when he landed in the Lower East Side. That was the heart of it, in New York anyway, and the East Coast. So what did he do? He gave him a better drug, Hare Krishna. And, you know, he had the devotees who had been, and of course, if you want to get initiated, you have to vow no more intoxication. So that was a big surrender. But by the time they were ready for initiation, they had already experienced the good, you know, healthy drug of Hare Krishna. Not really a drug. It makes it clears the mind, and you can actually experience real happiness. So certain, you know, fortunate souls are ready to do that, actually give up drugs. In fact, it's great because, of course, who are they preaching to? The other LSD guys, you know, and stuff. So they just said, Prabhupada, can we make up a pamphlet, you know, stay high forever? Because the whole problem with the drugs is you come down, right? And you're back, you know, worse than normal. So Prabhupada said, yes, good idea. So he says, so that's the idea, is that in our so-called normal state, we're already intoxicated. We're intoxicated by this sense of being the master, of being the controller, being the enjoyer of this world, when actually that's not our actual position. And when one tries to become the false enjoyer and master of this world, you get entangled in this world. I always like to quote this verse. Bhayam, because Bhayam is, remember, one of the things that we share with the animals, fear, right? This is the world of fear and anxiety. We may not, there may be times and places where we're not feeling much, you know, we got it together, things are pretty nice. But then you just check out your phone and you see the news, and, you know, it's climate change, and the prices are going up, and what's happening to the weather, and, you know. In other words, there's tons of anxiety. The spiritual world, what's the name for it? That means Vaikuntha, the place of no anxiety. And don't think that Goloka is not also Vaikuntha. Goloka is the supreme Vaikuntha planet. No anxiety there. You know, you get up in the morning. You have a place in Krishna's pastime somewhere. You may be a gopi. You may be a gopa. You may be a cow. Doesn't matter. You're fully conscious. It's not that the cows are not as conscious as the boys. They're just in a different mood. They're serving Krishna this way, giving them milk, you know. And I just read this pastime. Krishna's pastime is so amazing. In the Krishna book, you'll find, I think it's chapter 13, Prabhupada translated this part, killing of Aghasura. Krishna goes out with his friends, as he normally does, and then they break for lunch, you see. And so then this demon comes, of course, instigated by Kamsa. You know, so they're all like mystic yogis, so they can expand their bodies, take these different forms. So this Aghasura is a big snake. He's a huge python, actually, you know. And they're the ones who swallow, right? They don't bite, they swallow. So he not only that, but he was the younger or older brother of Putana and Bakasura. They're all a family of demons, you know. Did you know that? So he came with determination. He wanted revenge because Krishna already had killed Putana and Bakasura. Bakasura was a big heron demon. Anyway, so he took this form of a huge python, like miles long, you know, and it opened his mouth. And all the boys, Krishna was there with his thousands of friends, you know, and the cows, I think the calves, he was still a calf herd, under the age of 6. And so the boys said, well, what is this thing anyway? It looks like a big cave here. No, but wait a minute, no, it looks like a huge snake, you know, sitting on the path. And so they said, well, you know, we can walk right in there. And what can they do? Krishna will save us for sure, you know. So Krishna's watching all this, and they walk right in to the mouth of this big python, you know. And he swallows them. And they're like goners, you know. So Krishna says, oh boy, what am I going to do? So he also goes in, and all the demigods say, alas, alas. They think that, you know, Krishna's going to die. So he brings them all back to life there. And he starts expanding just in the place where, in the air channel, so he chokes him. He does it several times, sometimes just with his arm, with Keshi. So he's expanding, Gasu can't do anything. So he dies. And from out of his head comes his spirit soul and waits in the sky for Krishna to come out. You see? Come out with all the boys. He brings all the boys back to life, and all they traipse out, and they're all thankful, Krishna saved us like we thought. So then the spirit soul, which is Agasura actually, he merges into Krishna. So in this way, he awarded him liberation, because if you merge into Krishna, if you get killed by Krishna, you can get liberation in that way. It's not like going. You usually don't go back to Goloka Vrindavan, but believe it or not, the worst demon. What could be a worse demon? It's one thing to be a big horse like Keshi, or a big snake, or others, but Putana was the worst. Drinking the blood of babies, what could be worse than that? So that was Putana. So anyway, she also tried to kill Krishna. He was, she disguised, the mystic, that mystic power. So she appears like a beautiful young girl. And of course, she comes into the home of Yashoda, and Rohini is there. And because she's so beautiful, and she wants to, suckle Krishna, so I said, of course, go ahead. So Krishna, he closes his eyes. All the commentators, why did he close his eyes? Anyway. So anyway, she sees he's pretty powerful, but still she's on a mission. So she's got this terrible poison she smeared on her breast. So she picks up the baby and she suckles him. He's going to be a garter. So he latches onto that breast, and he won't let go, and he sucks out her life, and she expands into a huge form. I don't know, 8 miles long, 12 miles, and big, and she dies there, and everyone is shocked. The gopis are running away, the cows and everything. And then, of course, what happened to Krishna? So they find him, he's just playing around on her chest, like that. So she was the worst, but she got the best deal, because she suckled him. She said, "All right, I'll accept her as my mother." So she's purified because of the contact with Krishna. She died, of course. She goes to Goloka. She takes a place as a helper of Mother Yashoda, like a wet nurse or something, forever. Anyway, Krishna is so merciful. So, back to the verse. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati. So here, whether it's a mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, you'll be conditioned by that. We have to transcend the modes. That'll come in at the end of the chapter. But transcending the modes means come to the platform of pure goodness. It's called the Vasudeva state. Why? Because in that state, Vasudeva becomes manifest. The short and long A's are very important. Vasudeva is Krishna's father, and the son of Vasudeva is Vasudeva. That's Krishna. So here, even the mode of goodness is not good enough. You can be in the mode of goodness and still be conditioned. And then the thing is, you take birth again, you don't know what's going to happen. You can get influenced by the mode of passion and ignorance. And one more, and that's this pramade sanjayati about the tamas. Tamas is darkness or ignorance, right? And so there's a verse by Rishabdev. Lord Rishabdev, he's also an incarnation of Krishna. He appears in the 5th canto. And he's teaching his 100 sons. He's about to take sannyas. He's the king, but he's going to take sannyas. And so he's going to appoint his son, Bharat, as the king. That's why he's named Bharata Varsha. Then he's the one that became attached to a deer. I don't know if you remember that pastime. That's another thing. So anyway, he gives these instructions. They're very important. The beginning of the 5th chapter of the 5th canto. I remember Prabhupada, the first verse was so important of his instructions that Prabhupada was in India. Wherever he went, a different city, he spoke on that first verse. It's not like he went on to the 2nd verse or anything, first verse. But this is a little later, a few verses later. He has this, Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yadindriya priteya apmanoti. Nasadu manne yata atmanoyan asannapi kleshada asadeha. So, Nunam, certainly pramatta, mad. Matta is mad, but here is pramatta, totally mad. Pra, it always increases it. If matta is bad, pramatta means much worse. So the word pramade is here. See that? Madness. So what he's saying here is that certainly those are mad who simply act for sense gratification, whose whole idea is gross and subtle sense gratification, and that's what we see all around us. Nunam kurate vikarma. And what do they perform? They don't just perform karma. Karma is more or less activity. It can be good or bad. Vikarma is bad activity, sinful activity. Activity which will result in much suffering in your life, in this life and the next life. You know. So, vikarma. We see it all around us. You know, the higher you go, practically the more likely you are to be performing that kind of activity. So what's the result? Nunam pramakta kurade vikarma yadindriya priti. The word indriya priti exactly translates as sense gratification. Indriya is senses, priti is gratification. Prita apranoti. He says, nasaru manne. He says, I don't think it's a very good idea. Nasaru manne. Sadhu can be an adjective. Sadhu we know is a saint, you know, but sadhu can mean very good, something good. That's why, or bravo, Krishna performs a wonderful activity and his friends will say, sadhu, sadhu. Now when I first heard that, you know, devotees were saying it to someone, I said, oh, they're calling him a sadhu. No, they're saying, bravo, bravo, very nice. So here he's saying, na sadhu. He says, it's not a very good idea to just be completely focused on sense gratification like 99.9% of the people around us. Because you're going to perform sinful activity, you know, which you're going to have to suffer for, like anything. And main thing is you'll be sure to get another body, which in itself, you know, is suffering. So that's the first lesson that he has. So it's the 3-verse lesson. Now the next verse is really illuminating, and it's very pertinent to this. So the next verse he says, Parabhavas tavada bodha jato, yavana jigyasata atma tattvam, yavat kriyas tavadidam manovai karmatmakam, yena sharira bandha. The whole idea is to get free of this body and go back and get liberation, go back to Godhead. But sharira bandha, bandha is this English word, bondage. You're bound to the sharira, body. So here he says, parabhavas. Now parabhavas means defeat. What is defeat in this human life? Not to get liberation, to waste the human life in such, and even go down to animal life or even other. So parabhavas is defeat. What is it caused by? This yavat-tavat comparison means as long as you do this, you're going to get this. Or it can be as long as you don't do this, you're going to get this. So tavat is you're going to get this, means you get defeat. Parabhavas tavat, abodha jato. That defeat means birth and death and old age disease, getting another birth. Abodha jato, it's born out of ignorance. It's born out of gross ignorance of who we are, what our goal in life is, and how to achieve it. You see, those 3 things. So, yavan. So what is? How do you get that? How do you stay in ignorance? Yavan not jigyasata atma tattvam. Here we are, that word jigyasa. Remember, Tatu Brahma jigyasa? That's the first sutra. Jigyasa means inquisitiveness. What are you going to ask about? You know, our whole life is that. You get up in the morning and right away you're asking, you know, where are my shoes? You know, or where's it? You know, you got to ask, right? We're asking. How can I get a best job so I can make the most money? You know, okay, I got a good education. Okay, where do I get that? Here's where you get this. Okay, what do I have to do to get in? It's all questions and answers. So, but as long as you're not inquiring about yava nigigya atma tattvam, the truth of the soul, and not just the individual soul, but the supreme soul, that's what we have to turn our attention to. And that's what this class is all about. Bhagavad Gita is all about who am I? Really, what is my goal in life, and how can I achieve it? So, if you don't have that inquiry, you're going to remain in ignorance, and you'll be defeated again and again. Bodhajato yavat kriyas, because as long as you keep performing fruitive activity, that's kriya. That's the one in the word that kriya means. Means with the idea of enjoying sense gratification. Yavat kriyas tavad, that long. Yavat kriyas tavad. Idam manovai karmatmakam. Your mind will remain saturated with these karmic ideas, plans about how to enjoy, how to avoid this, how to get this, you know. That's the mind will be like that. And it's the mind that doesn't die when the body dies. The mind, intelligence, and ego go on, and that becomes the template for your next body. So if your mind is all, I like this, I don't like this, on a material level, that will determine what body you get. It may be human, may not be human, depending on your activity. There's two things, the quality of your mind and your karma. That's also being recorded, it's witnessed by the Supersoul. So karma, yena sharira bandha. By that karma-saturated mind, the yena, that's the instrumental, yena sharira bandha, you remain bound up to this material body. So that's the second verse of the lesson. So now, what's the solution? Third verse. Evam manak karma vasham prayunkte. The first line, he's reviewing the previous verse. Thus, the mind, evam manak karma vasham, impelled by karma activities, prayunkte is you're engaged in that by the previous verse. You remain covered by ignorance, if that's all you get. So then he says, here's the solution, here's the final thing. He said, what is it? Pritir niyavan mahi vasudevi. Now priti is love. Now we're getting to love, because that's the ultimate goal of this, is Krishna priti. Priti niyavan mahi vasudevi. Now he says Vasudevi, that's Krishna. So here's Rishabdev is revealing that I am Krishna. He says, as long as one doesn't have love for me, Vasudev, you will remain bound up to a series of bodies. So love for Krishna includes mukti. It's not the goal of bhakti, but it's one of the side benefits. And, this is important, it can serve as an impetus to get onto the path. In other words, if we're suffering life after life after life, these threefold miseries, does anyone really want to come back again? I mean, I don't even know if I want to live another 5 years in this world, what to speak. I may not, I'm only 78 years old. So, but the point is, we have to first of all that's a good impetus to get on the path. But if you get on the path of Krishna consciousness, and you taste the nectar of chanting Hare Krishna and serving Krishna, and you feel progress, after a point you say, I don't care about mukti. And even that's a verse in the Shikshastika. There are eight verses of instruction Lord Chaitanya wrote. Number 4 is Nadanang, Najanang, Nasundarin, Kapitang Va Jagadishikamaye, Mama Janmani Janmanishware, Babata Bhakti Nahoitaki Tvahi. So this is Lord Chaitanya taking the role of an aspiring bhakta. He's teaching us how to pray. So here's what people usually pray for if they go to church, wealth, followers, beautiful wife, or whatever, beautiful husband, okay? Sundarim. Kavitam, good education. You gotta have that. Kavitam va. Jagadisha kamaye. So Krishna says, Nadanang, Lord Chaitanya, Nadanang. I'm not praying for this. I'm not coming to you for these things. And then he says, Mama Janmani Janmanishware, by saying that, which means birth after birth, that implies, absolutely, that he's not asking for liberation. Because with liberation, there's no birth. So he said, so I don't care if I take birth again, as long as I have Bhavatad Bhaktir Ahoitaki Tvahi. I have pure devotion, Ahoitaki Bhakti, unto you. I'll serve anywhere, any situation. As long as I have that, then I'm satisfied. So he's teaching us not to aspire even for mukti, because mukti can also be a selfish desire. Says Prahlad Maharaj is very explicit about this. In fact, Sridhar Swami, the first and most authoritative commentator on the Bhagavatam, in the commentary on the very first verse, the second verse, where about the Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavatam, it said, Dharma projita kaita votra. That's the first statement. In this literature, in this shastra, we're throwing far away cheating religions. Dharma projita kaitava. Kaitava is cheating. Now, what is a cheating religion? Well, in his commentary on this, Sridhar Maharaj says, those religions or those practices which simply aspire for one's own liberation. It's selfish. Just like, forget this ultimate liberation, but so many things we do are in that category of liberation. Most of you, somehow I feel warm enough so I don't have a coat, and like you too. But if it goes out, we go outside and it's cold, you got to have a coat. You want to be liberated from the suffering of cold, you see? And the ultimate liberation is, no more birth, old age, disease, and death. That would be really cool. You know? So Prahlad says, so these so-called munis and yogis, they go to some secluded place. They'll go to Himalayas, some cave somewhere, and meditate, not caring at all about all the other people who are suffering birth, old age, disease, and death. They don't care for them. I just want my own liberation. That's not spiritual. That's ultimately material. You see? So Lord Chaitanya, that is not the ultimate goal of bhakti. But it can help to take up the spiritual process. And that's why in the Bhagavad Gita itself, in the last chapter, there were a series of things that Krishna listed as part of knowledge. And one of the most famous is Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Doshana, Darshanam. To remain, keep in one's forefront the evils or the suffering of birth, old age, disease, and death. Well, I don't want to do that, so what should I do? Chant Hare Krishna, Prabhu. You know? So in other words, mukti is a byproduct of bhakti. So, but it can still be an impetus to get it, because we don't know anything about love of God, but I know I'm suffering, you know, threefold miseries, and I'm getting old, you know, oh, what am I going to do with that white hair, you know? So how to get free of that? Oh, just get to that point where you won't take birth again. Okay. But you find out that the process is not just merging into Brahman or going alone to the Himalayas. No. You come to the kirtan. You chant this mantra. This is a process. All right, fine, you know. And after a while, you feel, who cares about mukti? Just give me another kirtan. So that's the thing. All right, I kind of get a little far afield. Let's do one more. Text 10. Rajas tamas cha vibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata Rajas sattvam tamaschaiva tamak sattvam rajastatha. Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance, O son of Bharata. Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way there is always competition for supremacy. Purport. When the mode of passion is prominent, the modes of goodness and ignorance are defeated. When the mode of goodness is prominent, passion and ignorance are defeated. And when the mode of ignorance is prominent, passion and goodness are defeated. This competition is always going on. Therefore, one who is actually intent on advancing in Krishna consciousness has to transcend these three modes. The prominence of some certain mode of nature is manifested in one's dealings, in his activities, in eating, etc. All this will be explained in later chapters. But if one wants, he can develop by practice the mode of goodness and thus defeat the modes of ignorance and passion. One can similarly develop the mode of passion and defeat goodness and ignorance, or one can develop the mode of ignorance and defeat goodness and passion. Although there are these three modes of nature, material nature, if one is determined, he can be blessed by the mode of goodness, and by transcending the mode of goodness, he can be situated in pure goodness, which is called the Vasudeva state. I mentioned that earlier. Vasudeva state. A state in which one can understand the science of God, namely Vasudeva. By the manifestation of particular activities, it can be understood in what mode of nature one is situated. And sometimes the mode of no activities. You know, these poor people on the street, it's very easy to fall into the mode of ignorance. First of all, how can you stay clean, you know? That's the thing. And then, oh, it's so depressing, let me sleep. You know, and on my walk, I find that poor people, they're sleeping, you know, it's so cold, you don't even see them sometimes, they're all wrapped up, and you know, it's frightening. That this country can allow that to happen and people can fall into that, you know. It's crazy. But, so we want to try to attain that Vasudeva state. And therefore there's certain rules and regulations and, you know, cultivating this knowledge. That's why I always stress that strengthening the intelligence. That's what this does. If you know these things, if you have faith in this knowledge, and you say, oh, well, how can I escape, you know, this prison house of material world? It really is. Durga means a prison. Isn't that right, Ami? A fort, a prison. You can't go. Durga literally means you can't go. Durga, impossible to go. So that's the material energy. So I want to escape. Okay, great. Well, then chant this mantra and, you know, take prasadam and be in, help, you know, in the kirtan and wash the dishes, you know, and get into devotional service. And so, and it's practical, and you can feel liberated, even in this lifetime. You feel liberated. And how? Because all of those are things that used to attract you, and you really know it's not good for me, but I still, I got to have a drink. No. It's not even there anymore. The attraction isn't there. That's mukti. And so now what? What do I do with my energy? Okay, we develop love for Krishna. There's no downside, Every day there's more adventures with Krishna, and you're enjoying like anything. And it's like, oh no, now I have to pay the karma. No, there's no karma. It's all, because it's for Krishna's pleasure. And here's the thing, and then I'll just give you a little poem here, is that, what would you do if you were God? Well, I'd arrange things so that I could always enjoy. Yes, right? I would say, well, let's have a little, misery too. No, always enjoy. So there's a verse, there's a sutra, Anandamaya Vyasat. Means exactly, Krishna is made, he's composed of ananda, of bliss. Satchit Ananda, eternal, blissful, full of knowledge. Now, the wonderful thing is, we're part and parcel of Krishna. Anksha. Right? Mamai Vangsha. Anksha means like a little drop of water in the ocean. So the drop of water, or the little vessel you may get, it has the same qualities. You can get the salt in there and you analyze it. So we are also, by nature, full of ananda. This is the point. But we've lost that nature because we didn't keep our connection with Krishna, which is one of service. How can we be always blissful? Well, Krishna is always blissful. So if you can take your happiness in Krishna's happiness, then you'll always be blissful. That's the definition of pure bhakti. What can I do so that I can please Krishna? I don't know. That's why you have to consult the guru, the spiritual master, who's already on that platform. And Yasya Prasada, Bhagavad Prasada, we sing every morning. So what we're doing now, studying the book, here we're going to have the kirtan, see the deities, take prasadam. This is all pleasing to Krishna. We should know that. And that's why there's some pleasure, even though we don't know why, I mean, who could, try to explain how chanting this mantra, this sound, for 2 hours every day, or kirtan for 3 hours, or whatever it is, there's a spiritual pleasure there. There's a peacefulness that comes. There's something that comes. There's no scientific reason. It's Krishna's mercy. And the more that you do sincerely, and you hear nicely, and you regulate your life, the more you can come up to that platform of always being in happiness, in bliss. That is what we should aspire for. And that's available. So, but we have to transcend these modes, and how we do that will come at the end of this chapter, very scientifically. And basically, it's not a mystery. Mam Shiyova Bicharena, Bhakti Yogena Sevate, Sagunan Samititatam, Brahma Bhuya Kalpate. That's the second to last verse. Mam Shiyova Abhyabichari Bhakti, undeviating devotional service unto me, like Krishna said. Bhakti Yogena Sevate, Sagunan Samititaitan. One transcends the three modes, the gunas. And then what? Brahma Bhuya Kalpate. Then he comes to this transcendental platform of pure bhakti. So that's what this chapter is going to teach us, and it's very wonderful. Okay, ready for a little recreation? A poem? All right. So, here's just a meditation on Krishna entering the forest of Vrindavan with his friends. Now, it begins, this is the 21st chapter of the 10th canto, the famous Venu Gita chapter, which is famous. And there's a wonderful book by Shiva Ramswami. He got all these commentaries on this chapter and put it into a wonderful book, expanded on the thing. So at the beginning, it says, Vrindavan's rivers, lakes, and hills ring out with charming hums and trills, as flocks of birds and maddened bees rejoice among the flowering trees. To those idyllic woods and glens repairs Govinda with his friends, Sri Rama and the cowherd boys, to taste the most exquisite joys. Now, I don't know how many of you know that the word repair can mean go. Does everyone know that? No. Go. G-O. Who knew? Yes, believe it. Look it up. I mean, it's like, we repaired to the lounge and we lit our cigars, something like that. So he's repairing to the woods with his friends. He's not walking, he's running. They're running out, actually. Anyway, so he starts walking now. So he repairs Govinda with his friends, Sri Rama and the cowherd boys. Let me start again. Vrindavan's rivers, lakes, and hills ring out with charming hums and trills as flocks of birds and maddened bees rejoice among the flowering trees. To those idyllic woods and glens repairs Govinda with his friends Sri Rama and the cowherd boys to taste the most exquisite joys. And as they walk along the way, absorbed in herding and in play, Sri Krishna, beauty absolute, begins to blow his mystic flute. I should have brought my flute. I'll do that next Tuesday. Begins to blow his mystic flute with peacock plume upon his head and fragrant flower on each ear. He enters brothers with his tread sublime, a dancer without peer. His golden yellow raiment glows, his garland reaches to his knees, and from his lips the nectar flows and fills his flute with melodies. As Krishna thus begins his day with friends who sing his glory sweet, he beautifies the forest way with fine impressions of his feet. Samadhi culminates in this: to always see the scene of bliss within oneself and outside too. May Krishna give this boon to you. That last part is from the Krishna book. Prabhupada said, this is real transcendental meditation, seeing this image. So, we have plenty of time. It's only 8:10. So one more. Now this is one that is based on that verse by Rishabhdev that I mentioned, the beginning verse that Prabhupada spoke on in the 5th canto. If you're interested, you have access to the Bhagavatam, or you don't, look it up on YouTube, not YouTube, on Database IO, and you can find the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter, text 1. So this is verse inspired by that verse. Don't waste this precious human life, dear friend, by working hard for fleeting happiness. Through bhakti yoga, worldly life transcend and learn to taste divine love's endless bliss. That's the essence of this movement. And it's real, so let's take it seriously. Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. We'll repair to the position where we'll... Hare Krishna. And thank you for your attendance. And for those online, thank you also. Hare Krishna.